So here we have this course variable set to Python programming. As I told you before, whenever you work with text, you should surround your text with quotes. You can either use double quotes or single quotes. That's more of a personal preference, but quite often we use double quotes. We also have triple quotes, and we use them to format a long string. For example, if you have, let's say, a variable message, that is the message we want to include in the body of an email, you can use triple quotes to format it like this.
Round one.
Hi, John.
Fight.
This is Mosh from codewithmosh.com, blah, blah, blah. So that's when we use triple quotes. Now, we don't need this in this lecture, so delete. Let me show you a few useful things you can do with strings. First of all, we have this built-in function in Python for getting the length of strings. What is a function? A function is basically a reusable piece of code that carries out a task. As a metaphor, think of the remote control of your TV. And this remote control, you have buttons with different functions that turn on, turn off, change the channel, and so on. These are the built-in functions in your TV. In Python and many other programming languages, we have the exact same concept. So we have functions that are built into the language on the platform. You can reuse these functions to perform various tasks. So here we can use the built-in len function to get the length of a string, which means the number of characters in that string. Now, whenever you want to use a function, you should use parentheses. Now we say you're calling this function, which basically means you're using this function. Now, some functions take additional data, which we refer to as arguments. These arguments are the inputs to these functions. So, this len function takes an input or an argument. Here we pass our course variable, and this will return the number of characters in this string. So let's print that and see what we get. Run the program. We get 18 because we have 18 characters here. Let's look at another example. If you want to get access to a specific character in this string, you use the square bracket notation. So here we add course, square brackets. To get the first character, we use the index 0. So in Python, like many other languages, strings are 0 indexed, which means the index of the first character or the first element is 0.
You win.
So now when we print this, we get P. Okay? Now you can also use a negative index, like -1. What does that mean? Well, if 0 represents the first character here, what do you think -1 represents? That takes us back to the end of the string.
Round
so
one.
that returns the first character from the end of the string. Let's run this program. You will see we'll get G. There we go. Using a similar syntax, we can slice strings. Let me show you. So I'm going to duplicate this line and remove -1. Now let's say we want to extract the first 3 characters in this string. So here we need 2 indexes. The start index, colon, the end index.
Round 2.
So this will return a new string that contains the first 3 characters in this course variable. That will be P, Y, and T. So the index of these characters are 0, 1, and 2. So that means the character at the end index is not included. Okay? Let's run the program and make sure we get the right result. There you go, P, Y, T. Now, what if we don't include the end index? What do you think we're going to get? It's common sense. You start from index 0 and go all the way to the end of the string. So this will return a new string that is exactly the same as the original string.
Round
Let's
3.
take a look.
Fight.
So we get Python programming. Now what if we don't include the start index, but include the end index? What do you think we're going to get? Once again, it's common sense. So by default, Python will put 0 here, so it will start from the beginning of the string. So when I run this program, we should get PYT one more time. There you go. And finally, as the last example, if we don't include the start and the end index, this will return a copy of the original string. Let's look at this. So we get Python program. Now you don't have to memorize any of these. Just remember, you use the len function to get the length of a string. Use bracket notation to get access to a specific element or a specific character.
Fight.
And we use this notation to slice a string. So we have this string here, Python programming. Now let's say we want to put a double quote in the middle of this string. There is a problem here. Python interpreter sees the second string as the end of the string. So the rest of the code is meaningless and invalid. How do you solve this problem? Well, there are two ways. One way is to use single quotes
벌써
for
끝이야?
our string,
더 덤벼봐.
and then we can use a double quote in the middle of the string. But what if for whatever reason, perhaps for being consistent in our code, we decided to use double quotes? How can we add another double quote in the middle of this string? Well, we can prefix this with a backslash. Backslash in Python strings is a special character. We have a jargon for that called escape character. We use it to escape the character after. Let me show you what I mean. So let's print this course, run this program. What's going on here? We don't have a backslash because we use that to escape this double quote and basically display it here. So backslash is an escape character and backslash double quote is an escape sequence. In Python strings we have a few other escape sequences that you should be aware of. Let me show you. So in Python we use a hash sign to indicate a comment. A comment is like additional note that we add to the program. It's not executed by Python interpreter. Okay? So here are the escape sequences. You have seen backslash double quote. We also have backslash single quote. So we can use that to add a single quote here. Run the program. Here it is, beautiful.
Round 3.
We also have double backslash. So if you want to include a backslash in your strings, you should prefix it with another backslash. Let me show you. So when we run this, we get Python 1 backslash programming. And finally we have backslash n, which is short for new line. So now if I add a backslash n here, see what we get. We get a new line after Python, so programming will end up on the second line. So these are the escape sequences in Python.
You win.
필살기 같은 건 없어?
Here we have two variables, first and last. Let's say we want to print my full name on the console. So we can define another variable, full, set it to first, then concatenate it with a space, and one more time concatenate it with last. Now when we print full, we get my full name on the console. Beautiful. Now this approach of using concatenation to build a string is okay, but there is a better and newer approach. We can use formatted strings. So here we can set full to this string and prefix it with an F, which can be lowercase or uppercase. This formatted string doesn't have a constant value like these two strings here. It's actually an expression that will be evaluated at runtime. So here we want to add our first name. We use curly braces to print the value of the first variable. After that, we add a space, and then we add curly braces one more time to print the last name. So at runtime, this expression will be evaluated. What we have in between curly braces will be replaced at runtime. Now let's run this program one more time. We get the exact same result. Just be aware that you can put any value expressions in between curly braces. So earlier you learned about the built-in length function. You can call length here, get the length of this string. Let's run this program one more time, so we get 4. We can also replace last with an expression like this, 2 plus 2. Let's run this program, we get 4 and 4.
Round 2.
So, when using formatted
Fight.
strings, you can put any valid expressions in between curly braces. In this lecture, we're going to look at a few useful functions available to work with strings. So earlier you learned about this built-in length function. This function is general purpose,
Round
so it's not
3.
limited to strings.
Fight.
Later, I will show you how to use this function with other kind of objects. But in Python, we have quite a few functions that are specific to strings. Let me show you. So here if we type course dot, see all these functions available on strings. Now, in precise terms, we refer to these functions as methods. This is a term in object-oriented programming that you will learn about later in the course. For now, what I want you to take away is that everything in Python is an object, and objects have functions we call methods that we can access using the dot notation. So here course is an object, we use the dot notation to access its functions, or more accurately, methods. Let's take a look at a few of these methods. We have upper to convert a string to uppercase. Now let's print this and run the program.
Round 1.
Here's what we get.
Fight.
Beautiful. Now note that the methods that you call here return a new string, so the original string is not affected. Let me show you. So string, course, run the program one more time. Look, this is our original string, right? So course.upper returns a new string, a new value. You can store it in a variable like course on the capital
KO.
like this. Now to keep
Round
this
2.
demo simple and consistent,
Fight.
I'm gonna revert this back and use a print statement. We also have the lower method to convert a string to lowercase. We also have title, which will capitalize the first letter of every word. So if our string was like this, let me call the title method. We get Python programming as you see here.
Round 3.
Okay.
Fight.
Another useful method is strip, and we use it to trim any white space at the beginning or end of the string. This is particularly useful when we receive input from the user. Let me show you. So let's imagine the user entered a couple of white spaces at the beginning of the string. When we call course.strip, those white spaces will be removed. Take a look. So note that in the first 3 examples we have those white spaces, but in the last one it is removed. So strip removes the white space from both the beginning and end of the string. We also have L strip, which is short for left strip, and R strip, which is short for right strip. So it will remove the white space from the end of a string. If you want to get the index of a character or a sequence of characters in your string, you should use the find method. Let me show you. So course.find. So as an argument, here we pass another string. We can pass a character
Round
or
1.
a series of characters.
Fight.
Let's find the index of pro. Run the program. So the index of pro is 9. So if you start from 0 here all the way to 9, this is the index of pro. Okay? Now, as I told you before, Python is a case-sensitive language. So if I pass a capital P here, obviously we don't have these exact characters in our string. So let's see what we get. We get -1. That means the string was not found in the original string. Another useful method is replace. So we call it replace. With this we can replace a character or a sequence of characters with something else. So let's say we want to replace all lowercase p's with j.
Round 2.
This we get
Fight.
Jython gyrogramming, whatever that means. And finally, if you want to check for the existence of a character or a sequence of characters in your string, you can use the in operator. Print, create an expression like throw in course. So this is an expression. As I told you before, an expression is a piece of code that produces a value. So this expression checks to see if you have throw in course. The difference between this expression and calling the find method is that the find method returns the index of these characters in our string, whereas this expression returns a boolean, so it's a true or false.
Round 3.
So run the program.
Fight.
We get the boolean true. And finally we have not operator, and we use that to see if our string does not contain a character or a sequence of characters. So let's change this to Swift, not in course. When this expression is evaluated, what do you think we're going to get? Well, we don't have Swift in this string, so not in will return true. Let's take a look.
Round 4.
So these are the useful string methods. Next, we'll look at Hi guys, thank you for watching this tutorial. My name is Mosh Hamadani, and I have tons of tutorials like this for you on my channel. So be sure to subscribe, and also please like and share this video. If you want to learn Python properly from scratch in depth, I have a comprehensive Python tutorial for you. The link is below this video, so click the link to get started. Thank you and have a fantastic day.
Get ready for the next battle.
So it's 2023, brand new year, and already there's a ton of stuff affecting the tech industry. We've got tools like ChatGPT, all kinds of tech layoffs, just the economy in general, and if you're a software engineer or programmer, you're rightfully probably a little bit worried and concerned and thinking about how you can best prepare for what may happen in the next 6, 12, 18 months, etc. Now, I'm not here to worry you. I think that if you're in the tech industry, you're going to be completely fine. Really, what I would be doing now is just working on your skills, getting as good as you possibly can, and proving to either your current employer that you're worth keeping around, or to a new employer that you're worth taking on, even though the hiring is kind of slowed down a little bit right now. So, kind of summary here, don't be too concerned. I think everything is going to be fine. And what I'm going to do in this video is talk to you about Python specifically, and if I think you should be learning that in 2023 based on everything that's going on.
Round 2.
Obviously, you guys know this is a Python-focused channel. I'm sure many of you are beginners just getting into Python, and maybe you're a little bit scared of what's going on right now and wondering, should I kind of be learning this? Should I keep going into this field? And many of you are probably intermediate or advanced Python programmers and thinking about, should I change languages? Should I diversify a bit? And that's what I'm hopefully going to answer here. Specifically, I'm going to tell you why I think you should learn Python, why I think you shouldn't learn Python, and then other languages I'd recommend if you're going to be moving away from the Python language. With that said, let's get into the video after a quick word from our sponsor. Before we get started, I need to thank Linode for sponsoring this video. I've been using and working with Linode for nearly 3 years now, and they've consistently been my go-to choice for hosting my applications and servers. In fact, right now I'm using Linode to host the official Tech with Tim Discord bot, a website, multiple of my domains, and a Kubernetes cluster. Now, Linode was just recently acquired by Akamai, and as a part of this acquisition, they're going to be adding more than a dozen new data centers around the world in the next year. Linode makes it super easy to spin up servers with their one-click app marketplace and have tons of written guides and YouTube videos on their channel to help you get started. Now, if you're having any issues, you can reach out to their 24/7 support team and actually talk with a real human being. Now, Linode's pricing is simple with no hidden fees and full transparency, and you can test out Linode services for free by using the link in the description and claiming an $100 60-day credit for any new accounts. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with Linode over the past few years, and one last thank you to them for sponsoring this video.
Final round. Fight.
Alright, so just as a mini preface here before I get into the main points of the video, if you're someone who's just getting into Python, you're just getting into software engineering, I think you should still continue down this path. This is definitely something that's going to give you a ton of opportunities. It's a great skill to have in general, even if you're not employed as like a programmer or a software engineer. And I don't think you need to be overly concerned. That's my opinion. Obviously, everyone has their own, but I'm still working on new skills right now. I'm learning new languages, and I'm improving constantly no matter what kind of the market looks like. With that said, if you guys do want to get a comprehensive overview of Python, just software engineering skills in general, I do have a course. It's called programmingexpert.io. I will leave that link in the description.
Get ready for the next battle.
Alright, so let's get into the bulk of the video here and discuss why you should learn Python or continue learning. So first of all, Python is a general purpose programming language. It's extremely popular, used by tens of millions of people, typically ranked one of the most popular programming languages in the world based on use case as well as demand for developers. There is tons of different jobs and you can really do anything you want with Python. With that said, Python is not always the best language for a specific task, but since it is so general, you can pretty much do anything you could imagine. So if you learn Python, you have the ability to do machine learning. You can make a website, you can make a game, you can make a backend server or API, you can mess around with databases. Pretty much anything you can imagine you can write in Python. So as a first language, it's very good because it gives you a lot of different avenues and allows you to explore a bunch of different options before maybe learning a more specific language for the specific path that you want to go down. With that said, Python is also a very beginner-friendly language. It's typically very fast to learn. If you already know a language, it's going to be very fast. You can probably pick it up in a few weeks or maybe even a month. And it's something that's very easy to read and fast to write code in. So if you're someone who's maybe not thinking about being a career software engineer, you're just kind of learning programming to pick up a little bit of a side skill, maybe it's something that interests you, definitely a language I would recommend because of the general purpose aspect of it and the fact that it's going to be very fast to learn and it's not super complicated. There's a lot of other programming languages that may be better suited for a specific task, but are a bit more complex. There's more theory, more logic that you need to learn, and it can be a bit discouraging. Whereas Python, I find, people typically build a lot of confidence with it very quickly, start building apps, projects, etc., and then that accelerates them into a second, third, fourth language, beyond that. So hopefully that's kind of a general overview of Python. Now, relating Python to the current situation, I think Python is a great language to learn, especially if you're going to be interviewing. So if you're going to be interviewing, I like doing it in Python because it's a very fast language to write, just in terms of the syntax. It's very simple. It's very easy for your interviewer to read it, and it has a lot of helpful functions, methods, etc. that can save you quite a bit of time when you're doing a coding interview. So something to consider, doing a coding interview in Python, I would say is way easier than doing it in Java or C++ or C# or something else that you may know. Personally, I did all of my coding interviews in Python, and even if someone doesn't know Python, since it's just such a simple language, kind of the syntax of it, it's very easy for them to read and understand what you're doing. Now, going beyond that, I will mention that Python does have a ton of jobs. Typically, Python is going to be some kind of requirement, or you're going to have to be at least familiar with the language, and that's because it really is used everywhere, and you're going to find it in a lot of code bases, even if it's not the core language, for different scripts or kind of smaller aspects of the code, and a lot of employers want to know that you have some comfort and some familiarity with it. So even though it's not always going to be the primary language you need to know to get a job, it's typically some kind of prerequisite, and there is a lot of just straight Python jobs. So with that said, that's why I think you should learn Python. Now let's talk about why you shouldn't learn Python. So why should you not learn Python? Well, there's many reasons here, but most of them stem from the fact that Python is a very general language. Now that's good in some instances, but in this case it's bad because that means that Python is not the best language for a lot of different specific tasks. So for example, you can make a game with Python, but it's not going to be the best performing game, and you'd probably be better off using something like C# and Unity. For example, you can do, let's say, a mobile app with Python, but again, you'd probably be better off using a native language like Swift or Kotlin. You can do something like a website with Python or a backend with Python, but you might be better off using something like Go or Rust. So So you see that although Python can be used for so many different things, if you're going to be a specialist in one specific area, a lot of times employers are going to look for someone who knows the best language and the best frameworks in that area. Now, that's not always the case. There is a lot of just pure Python jobs where companies use only Python, or they have their website or their game or whatever in Python, like I mentioned before. But in a lot of other cases, you have companies that may have Python as a second or third language that you need to know. And before that, they want you to be a pro at whatever the main language is for the kind of domain or task that you're going to be completing. So if you're going to be a game developer, you probably want to know Unity and C#. If you're going to be a website designer, you probably want to know JavaScript. Hopefully you get where I'm going here, but since Python is so general, you lose out on a lot of really specific jobs and kind of tasks if that's the only thing that you know. So that's the main reason why I wouldn't learn Python, or if I already know it, I might transition into something else just to make myself a bit more well-rounded and have more experience in a specific niche or more knowledge in a specific area. So really the main point there is that Python is more of a general language. You're going to be more of a generalist with that, whereas with another language, you're typically going to be more of a specialist and maybe have some better prospects, maybe some higher paying jobs or some more opportunity just because you know a language that maybe not everyone knows, whereas Python, kind of a lot of people know that and would consider themselves kind of fluent or competent in that area. Something worth considering. Going beyond that, I will also mention that if Python is currently the language that you know and you're good at Python, it's probably a good idea to branch out and learn a second or third language rather than just kind of diving into becoming an expert in Python. That's because, again, you've already picked up that general language, and now it's going to be worth it to pick up something more special where you can actually build more real production applications or stuff that's going to be better performing than what you might do with Python. There's a whole bunch of reasons here. Python is also a very slow programming language, and I can go on and on why you should and why you shouldn't learn Python, but I wanted to try to give you both perspectives here before I now move into the next section where I talk about what I would learn if you're not going to learn Python. Alright, so let's say at this point you decided that you're not going to be picking up Python. I'm not going to tell you that's the right or wrong decision. Depends on what you want to do and what field you're going to be getting into or what you're interested in. Again, to recap, if you're a beginner, I'd probably go with Python, learn that first, build up some confidence. If you're a bit more experienced or you're someone who already knows what field you want to go into directly, then I would pick up maybe a different language. Regardless, if you're not going to be learning Python, here are the languages I would recommend in 2023. These are ones that I'm personally learning, and I'll go through a kind of a brief rationale for each. So first, I might recommend doing some blockchain and Web3 development. Now, I know that market is kind of tanked, it's a lot lower than it was before, but I still think that this is going to be the future of programming and of the internet, and there is still a lot of money in this space and a lot of people hiring. It's actually very difficult to find Web3 engineers. I work with a few Web3 companies, and they're constantly looking for talent. Sometimes they're even hiring people that don't know any Web3 skills and then training them and paying them on the job. If you want to learn that, I do have a blockchain expert course. I'll link that in the description. You can learn everything you need to know about Web3 and blockchain technology. So that's one thing I might consider. Beyond that, I would probably learn a language like JavaScript. JavaScript is, again, a more general language, but it's really good specifically for web development. So it's a relatively easy language to learn, kind of similar to Python, but it's really good for building front-end user interfaces, for building websites, even for working on the back-end sometimes as well. If you want to do it like that, you have options like React Native, Vue, Angular, React. There's all kinds of different frameworks you can use with it, and it's super high in demand. It's typically kind of tied or similar placing with Python in terms of the most popular programming languages. So I don't think you'd be poorly served by learning JavaScript, especially if you want to get into web development. It's pretty much a must if you want to get into the web development space. Continuing, I might recommend something like Go. Go is a newer and more modern programming language, also referred to as Golang. It's a language that I personally really like. It kind of combines the performance of a language like C++ with the simplicity and kind of speed to write of a language like Python. So if you do like Python, you like the style of writing Python code, and you want something maybe a bit more enterprise ready, a bit more performant, then I'd look at Go, and that is taught in my programming expert course. Now lastly, I'd say you might want to consider learning something like Rust. honest, I don't have a ton of experience in this language, but I did work in it a little bit and posted kind of like a mini series on the channel for it. A lot of you guys really seem to like the language. It's growing rapidly in popularity. There's a ton of demand for Rust developers, and even though it's not the most popular language out there, I think that in a few years it might be there, and it's something worth taking a look at, because if you could learn it now and be one of the earlier Rust developers, I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities kind of in the next few years. So those would be my recommendations here if you're not going to be learning Python. Regardless, I think you should still continue programming, still improve your skills, check out products I have like Programming Expert and Blockchain Expert if you want a more kind of tailored way to do that. Obviously, I do have hundreds of videos on this channel too that can help you learn those skills. With that said, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the YouTube video. So in today's video, what I'll be doing is discussing the topics and skills that you need to learn to become a master at the Python programming language. Now, I've broken these skills up into 4 main categories. Those are basic, intermediate, advanced, and then finally expert/master level. And if you're someone who's a beginner programmer, you can kind of treat this video as a curriculum or kind of a general guideline on the skills that you should learn and in what order you should learn them. If you're someone who's more intermediate or would consider yourself advanced, then maybe I'll list some skills and topics you haven't heard of before, and I can give you some ideas for things that you may want to learn to really make your Python skills just that much better. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and talk about the skills and topics you need to learn to become a master at the Python programming language. So a quick note here that I have a ton of resources related to the topics I'm going to be mentioning here, especially in the beginner and intermediate sections. So I will link those resources in the description, and I'll leave kind of a list of the topics that I've talked about here. So if you're getting lost, or if you think I'm going too quickly, just consult the description and we'll have kind of like a mini transcript of what we've talked about in this video. So let's get started with the basic section. So this is really focusing on just fundamental programming concepts and really understanding like the basic building blocks of programming. So the core syntax, the way a program actually reads, the way that different lines of code are going to be executed, conditions, variables, all that kind of stuff. So to give us kind of a formal list of the topics that I would learn in some kind of relative order, some of these will be out of order, I would go with, and I have a list kind of in front of me right here, variables. So you want to understand how variables work. So x equals 1, y equals 2, x equals y. What does x equal? Just the basics like that, and understanding why we even use variables in programming. Then probably moving forward into conditions. So Boolean conditions, how do we compare 2 different variables together? How do we check if the user types something in and it's equal to something